Within an insignificant arm, in an insignificant cluster, there once lay a star system. One among many like it, this star system was special. Before recorded history, it had been chosen as the site of a grand experiment, a way of measuring and answering a burning question once and for all. Is life possible without magic? An immense array of runic latticework was constructed around the system, anchored into its star at the magnetic poles, and feeding off it to power itself. The system had been chosen for one simple reason. It was promising. 3 of the planets bore the potential to create life, the 3rd and 4th body, as well as one of the moons of the first giant. Once the lattice had been constructed, its spindly antenna turned inwards. It began siphoning the streams of ethereal energy from within the system. All the while, its outermost constructs refashioned the galactic streams of the same to bend around the system, rather than passing through it. After centuries of continuous operation, the process was complete, and the structure entered a maintenance mode. It would keep the system magicless for as long as it held stable around the star. Originally, the builders had intended to monitor the situation and terminate the experiment after confirming signs of life, to allow said life to develop normally, but they never returned. In the 4 centuries it had taken to drain the system of sorcerous flux, their cluster-spanning empire had collapsed. And so a golden sun spanned through the galaxy, powering a device keeping its planets magically inert. Life first appeared on the 4th planet, but its core was too small to keep itself liquid, and the gentle grasses and chirping insects of Mars were swept away by brutal solar winds. Its second chance was on the watery moon of the first giant, but as its surface cooled and its oceans froze over with ever thicker ice sheets, the boneless cephalopods of Europa were confined to an eternity, imprisoned under kilometers of ice. And finally, its third chance arose, on the 3rd planet, a grey blue-white orb, softly spinning around its sun. For uncountable millions of years, all that existed in its oceans were cells, until finally, as unlikely as it might seem, the creatures of Earth rose from their ocean, and began the wild dance of terrestrial evolution. A second uncountable number of millennia followed, and finally, the winner of the race to sapiens emerged. Homo sapiens, the upright ape, bilateral symmetry, carbon-water chemistry, and not a single spark of magic anywhere in its makeup. They flew in cans from planet to planet, finding Mars a barren desert, and Europa's ice impossible to drill through. As their cans advanced, so did they, journeying to the outer giants, then into the dust clouds surrounding their planets, and finally, one of their cans found a filament of the lattice. Well, found is a strong word. Their computerized can crashed into it with such force that the entire lattice buckled, then folded inwards, its careful balance disrupted irrevocably. An ancient failsafe was triggered, and the lattice snapped itself upwards into the magnetic poles of the sun, before falling down and burning into nothing. And, well, nature abhors a vacuum. Along the lattice's immense runic arms, magic flowed back into the system, touching its planets and star for the first time in an age. Within an instant, all knowledge of the universe the humans had accumulated was annihilated. A force they had not been able to know before, one denied them by ancient hands, flooded into every facet of their lives, wreaking havoc. Machines designed to function in rationality began diverting as magical flux flooded their circuits, sparking spontaneous life. Books dripped knowledge like ink. Phrases and data, which would naturally be self-censoring, finally able to destroy itself. These first few decades were a time of monsters, as random flux possessed household appliances with their own sort of life, and magic flooded into places it had never been before, places whose forebearers it would have destroyed. Runic sequences, etched by power lines, only possible because no magic had been present to destroy their partially completed instances, blazed to life, sparking change and transmutation across the planet. But slowly, surely, humanity regained ground against these monsters, these constructs infused with alien power. Some were beaten back and destroyed, others were replicated and domesticated, just as they had the common dog. But some rare few had, by pure chance, sparked into sapience mirroring that of the humans. Aided by their robots, or golems, or androids, or clockwork knights, humans wrested back control of their planet, tossing out old ideas and inventions that really shouldn't have worked to begin with, and adapting those they could. Clubs were swiftly replaced with sorcerer's alloy swords, then runelock rifles. The shells of military missiles were enchanted, and filled with concentrations of magical flux that would explode just as hard as any chemical explosive. Air defences became obsolete in favour of a planetary shield projected by runes, laid out in the road network. Cities built in ways that would provide the optimal nuclei. And as their culture and science inexorably tamed these strange new forces, devising new disciplines and natural laws, and testing them all with a revised scientific method, the humans ascended to the stars. Great starship cities were built, lifted out of their gravity well through runic sequences written onto the hull plating, accompanied by islands enchanted to float, and houses pulled by domesticated sky spirits. No one government could have kept the stars to itself, so none tried. Humans, as myriad as they were, all staked out into the sky on their own, using the magic which now came so easily to them. Inevitably, they came into contact with other species, other beings in other galaxies. And those beings looked at what the humans had done and were doing, their wild and carefree ways, their almost exuberant usage of magic, so dissimilar from the old, established ways. It was almost laughable, and they asked questions. Are there no archmages among you? How are you not unified in magic? Why are you doing it this way? And whatever human had been asked would simply smile, or smirk, or laugh, or otherwise express their happiness and say, "Because we can."